In this video, I'm going to demonstrate a piece of software called Trnio. It's iOS, so Apple only, but I think what you learn from my demonstration can be carried over to most of the other software if you're using Android or computer-based software. So if you're using something where you have to take the photos with a camera or a phone and then move those images into a folder on your computer and using software that processes it on the computer, that's fine. You're still going to have to take those reference photos, and this video will give you a better idea of how to do that, how you should set up your model that you're trying to scan, and how you should set your lighting up, and where you should be while you're taking the photos, how many photos you should take. So this should help even if you're not using the Trnio software. The software that I am going to be using, it does cost $5. I think that's a pretty reasonable price for an app, given that it works pretty well. All right, I've taken some time to make sure that I have pretty good lighting. I've got space around my model so I can walk all the way around it. You're going to need to get a full 360 degrees. You might be tempted to leave your camera static and sort of rotate the object around. That's not going to work. The software works not just by looking at the object itself, but by understanding where it is by looking at how the background is moving. So it needs you to move. You can't just move the object. It may seem like it's the same thing, but it's not the same thing. So I've got the app running now. I've got a good amount of space around the object. The lighting is pretty even. I would say avoid bright daylight. So if you're doing this outside, maybe wait for a cloud to show up. If there's direct sunlight, you might have really deep shadows, and that could make it difficult for the software to pick up individual points. What it needs to do is it'll pick a point on the object, and as you move, it'll track that point as you move around. So if there's a dark shadow, it may have trouble picking up those points, or if there are really bright highlights from the sun, it might have trouble picking up those points and understanding the geometry of what you're trying to scan. So I am going to start recording now. I don't have to take individual photos. As I move around, the software will take photos for me. And you'll see it's going to create this sort of like point cloud as you walk around. Right now, we're just seeing sort of like a line, but this circle that's around the drill is actually a sphere. And as I move around back to my starting point, you're going to see, yeah, there's my initial dot. As I move around, and I can lift up now and start to fill in the sphere from another angle. And around I go. I may have started this a little bit too far away, but we'll see. And I'm just sort of gradually getting higher and higher as I walk around. Now I want to come down and make sure I get some scans from underneath. Now I've got a few shots left. You can see that little bar at the bottom next to the stop button filling up. I'm just going to let it completely fill. There it goes. And now I have the option to create a scan, which I would like to do, so I'll hit yes. You do need an internet connection to make this work, so make sure your device, if it's a phone or an iPad, is connected to the internet. The data processing doesn't actually happen on the iPad itself. Everything gets uploaded to a server that does the processing for you. Now we really just have to wait. You can see that it's uploading the images right now. And we just wait for that to finish. Now we see the words in queue. That means the images have been uploaded to the processing server, and now we just kind of have to wait for it to be finished. I'm gonna try this again with a different model. This one's a little different, it's a skull. The drill sat really well on its own base. The skull, if I just left it on this platform, it might be hard to photograph the underside. So because it's kind of a rounder object, I'm trying to lift it up. I just have it balancing on a seltzer water can, just to try to get it up in the air. Depending on what your object is, you may have to do something similar. Lots of options for how that could work. All right, so once again, I'm just gonna move around the object in circles. I think I'll start a little bit closer this time and see if I get better results that way. I've changed the lighting just a little bit. Some of the lights in the background were a little bit bright when I went back and looked at the footage. The windows being open, I think, were really high contrast. So I'm trying to make the lighting as even as possible. So I'm using ambient light, not directional light. So I just have the overhead lights on. I never point the camera up that high, so it won't be looking directly at the light. The shades on the windows I've got shut to try to keep that direct sunlight off the object, and so the camera doesn't see direct sunlight in the window. Again, if you're doing this outside, it's probably best to do it on a cloudy day versus a bright sunny day. But you know, experiment. Your results may vary. Ooh, good thing we were done. We'll create the scan and we'll let that one process and we'll see what happens. So yeah, my skull fell over, but I swear I had just taken the final photo when that happened, so no problem. All right, before we can actually do anything with our model, we need a way to export it from the Trnio software into something that we can open with another program. I actually had some issues trying to preview my models once they were created. You'll see if I click on this one and it loads, nothing actually shows up in the preview window. I think this is because my iPad is a little bit older, and so the software maybe is no longer able to run using the processor that I have in my iPad. So hopefully you will be able to see your models in a preview window, even though I wasn't able to do that. However, once I exported my objects, they showed up fine in my other software. Once you're ready to export your favorite capture, all you have to do is click on it to bring up the preview window. In the upper right-hand corner, you'll see that universal icon for export or share. Make sure you select the OBJ file. And then I found the easiest way to send it to myself is just to use email. But really any of those options will work. And I'll just type in my email address and send it to myself. Here's a look at my finished model as it appears in Mesh Mixer. You'll see that I have some issues, some holes in the mesh that need to be filled. This is actually not that difficult using Mesh Mixer. We can clean that up pretty easily. Remove the soda can and part of the wooden platform that everything was standing on, and leave us with just the skull. And there's some tools in Mesh Mixer that we can use to close everything up so that it's ready for 3D printing if that's what we want to do. I'll post another video later about how to use Mesh Mixer specifically for this type of work, cleaning up your models and getting them ready to be 3D printed or possibly to be integrated into some other model that you've created somewhere else, like in Fusion 360 or Mudbox. I hope this was helpful. Thank you for watching.